Hi there, Internet Associate. It's Anthony, and I'm about to watch another episode of Lucifer. So this is season 3, episode 7, and it's called Off the Record, which makes me think of journalism and, people talking about stuff off the record and stuff like that. So I'm guessing this will have something to do with that. I've really been enjoying this season so far. I've liked how they've been doing all these experimental episodes and stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with this one here. And if it's going to be another experimental one or maybe another more regular story arc based one. So let's go ahead and get into it. Lucifer, season 3, episode 7, Off the Record.
Welcome back to the land of the living, Mr. Getty.
Wait, who is that? Is that, No, I don't think it is. I don't know. I can't tell. Is that the guy from Better Call Saul? Kind of looks like him, only, with a different hairstyle and beard and stuff. That's why I can't tell if it's him.
But you know what? Second chance on life. Maybe it's not too late to turn things around.
I think it's him.
No.
Is that Lucifer in there? Yes, it is.
That's his name?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the guy I'm thinking of.
The kind who owns this place?
Ooh. How do you feel now? You're in his own establishment. You're helping him.
Noticed you watching me. I know what
You're
this
giving
is
him
about.
money.
A sleazy, arrogant, womanizing piece of garbage.
Tell him.
Well, then why are you wasting time trying to pick me up? You should be punishing him.
Oh, don't
Lucifer
worry,
is not connecting the dots.
How are you? Great. What are you going to do? Spoons to the eyes, ants inside his urethra? Urethra Franklin, is that what it's called?
I think I'm just gonna
What?
punch him in the face.
And I'm a consultant.
You work with the police.
Started a couple of weeks ago. It's quite fun, actually.
Lucifer doesn't realize he's sitting here plotting his own demise.
No, I'm working on my new story. It's about a shady nightclub owner.
My top investigative
He's
reporter
a
wants me
journalist.
to approve a piece about overpriced booze and go-go dancers.
No, it's a con man.
There wouldn't be a personal reason behind it, would there?
No, of course not.
No personal reasons here.
Reese! Excuse me.
What if it turns out Lucifer wasn't even really sleeping with his wife? And knowing this show, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way it ends up going. He might have been doing something else that just sounded like that.
What are you doing here? Have you come to tell me about the punishment you delivered?
Said I could do a piece on you.
No. What, an entire article dedicated to me? Right, well, let's start with the tour. Gosh, this will be fun.
Sometimes Lucifer's own self-confidence and ego, you could say, ends up getting in the way because he doesn't realize that this guy is plotting on him and that the guy was talking about him the whole time.
I don't know what to tell you. I love the guy. Just love that guy.
Everyone here just loves Lucifer.
I don't like Lucifer.
Dan.
Really?
For starters, someone's been stealing my pudding. And I'm not exactly.
They might as well just make a whole show to Dan and his pudding. Like, this dude is always talking about this pudding. Starting investigations over his pudding. Gosh, Dan, calm down about the pudding.
Happy to keep this off the record.
There's the title.
Separated is not divorced. Chloe Decker. I did my research. Hot tub high school. Your dad.
He did his research all right, I
You
bet.
don't like the press.
C cups, to be precise. Oh, look at these.
Please don't juggle the evidence, Lucifer. But it's fine if he does, because, they've
Where's
already been
Ella?
processed.
I wonder if she's going to be in this episode, because I was wondering if they were going to say anything more about the things she mentioned last episode. She said something about hearing voices.
I told you, it's an unconventional partnership, and it just...
That's not it. What's he get out of it?
You'll have to ask him.
Chloe's like, that's a good question. He just gets the ability of projecting every single case to his personal life somehow. Yeah, okay, that's looking pretty shady right there on Lucifer's part. Just passing money off to people and getting bags.
Hi, hon. I know you've been avoiding me, but I want to try and turn things around. Can we talk?
Wait, his wife has been avoiding him?
Leave Lucifer mornings.
Mace!
I've been threatened by worse than you.
No, you haven't.
I
Whoa.
guarantee you haven't.
Ow! Now he's really gonna wanna pursue this. Look like you just got kicked in the nuts. What?
Reese, we need to talk.
Now that was a crazy reveal and twist. So that also gives us a lot more context about what Lucifer was probably doing in there.
Don't you know how much I love you?
You never give up.
That's not good for Lucifer. He never gives
That
up.
was a long time ago.
Not that long ago.
This is classic denial. It's a self-defense mechanism. that you
Don't
go
analyze
to.
me, Linda.
You're the one that married a therapist.
You know it's gonna change anything.
24 hours. That's all I'm asking for.
Okay, if I do, you'll finally sign the papers.
I promise.
Honestly, Linda, there's no point in even playing this game with him. Like 24 hours, like either way, you know you want him to sign the papers. And this guy is crazy. So he thinks that bringing out bad stuff about Lucifer Morningstar and bringing him down is going to make Linda want to come back to him now. Because from his perception, Linda and Lucifer are together. That's, you know, that's just wild. I had a feeling that I was starting to get a sense that like maybe things weren't what they seemed, because I was like, this guy probably is just some crazy dude that like isn't even really his wife or something. But I did not see that coming with it being Linda.
What the? Don't worry.
They're just having fun, I'm
Get
sure.
out of here.
I'm pretty into this. Or at least I was until you got here.
Yeah, like read the
doesn't
room,
matter.
man.
What about that pile of cash I saw you give that cop?
Yes, to buy his duffel bag. Hard to find quality leather with such tensile strength.
The bag.
Oh, he was just buying the bag? Really?
Are these sex toys? About so many things.
What a big expose this would be.
Look. And you and him. You two work well together. There's no story here. I'm just gonna drop it.
He's probably about to see something that's going to make him not want to drop the story anymore.
Unfortunately, Barry's not our killer. He sold expired medical goods from the office,
Barry.
including some tainted Botox that poisoned.
I've said before that I just, for some reason, feel like the name Barry is probably the most commonly used random name I see on TV shows. Like, I constantly just hear random characters being named Barry. Other side note, the show Barry is one of the best shows to come out in the last 10 to 15 years. So if you haven't seen it, you need to see it.
Look, I don't know anything.
Yes, yes, you plead ignorance and then we sweat you until you
What if
finally
Lucifer
give us
shows
the
him
name.
his
I'm
face?
sorry, I don't have time.
21, please, stop!
I knew it! Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. And he just looked like it's a, you know, it's a mirror, so can he see through that? He just checking himself out again. He just got a nice long look at that face too. But I am a little confused. I thought that Lucifer hadn't gotten his face back yet, and because the Skinner had taken his face away and given him wings. And his wings kept on coming. So that right there, that aspect is a little confusing to me.
On a story with Lucifer.
Look, I know this sounds crazy.
It doesn't sound nearly as
He's the
crazy as
devil.
you think.
And I don't mean in a douchebag club owning kind of way. I mean,
Man, everybody got cell phones these days. You should have taken a picture if you wanted to make some proof.
Figure out.
I know he probably didn't think of that in the moment. You do have a lot to figure out. But he thinks he has a lot to figure out in the wrong way. He has a lot that he needs to figure out about himself. He's going to try to figure out about Lucifer. Now, this episode so far, this is definitely another different kind of episode, like they've been doing a lot this season. But the feel that I kind of get from this episode, the best way I can describe it, it feels like a very good Lucifer spec script. And I only say that because it feels like this episode in no way belongs right here in the season. Like, didn't Lucifer lose his face? And Lucifer and Linda haven't been together for a while. Like, Linda said she didn't want to get with Lucifer anymore. That aspect of things, I can kind of understand them, like, you know, sometimes still getting together after that happened and the show not bothering to mention it. But it still feels like a bit of a stretch. Like, you know, she was pretty resolved about that. And then all of a sudden they're back together and the show never made any, like, you know, mention of the fact that they were sometimes hooking up again. I don't know. So this episode, it feels like it just took kind of like, you know, the core usual kind of setup of Lucifer, at least, you know, when it, you know, maybe in its first season or even second season. And it kind of just went with that and just used that to make this script. But it doesn't feel like it makes any sense in season 3. So I don't know. That's the most I can, not that, and I'm not even saying that as it's like I like the episode. It just feels out of place right here, unless I'm forgetting things. But yeah, he got a minute deal up there. You got Malcolm up there. Charlotte Richards, Ella Lopez. The funny thing is, Lucifer never hides the fact that he's the devil, really. He tells people all the time, but they just think it's a persona. So how many people will take this guy seriously? 1 year later? Oh. Okay, now it all makes sense. They just came up with that 1 year later thing. That was a cool way of being able to pull this episode off, I think. Now everything makes so much more sense. I was like, where's, like, everything is okay. It all makes sense now why the episode felt so weird. Now Lucifer's back.
It's Detective Decker. We could really use your help.
So we're tunnel buddies. Hey,
He said tunnel. He's gone crazy.
you realize what you just did? You just ruined a perfectly good Burberry. What kind of monster are you?
What kind of monster are you?
You tried to kill him.
Yeah, but I didn't.
Now what if he
He's
actually,
invincible because he's a
man, like, what if he actually died? What if this guy was just crazy and he had convinced himself that someone else was the devil and he just ran in and killed that person?
I know how unsettling it can be.
Yes, and if you're this unsettled by me, I'd hate to see what you're going to do to the scoundrel who's been sleeping with your wife.
He still hadn't made the
Didn't
connection.
realize what you were going through. I didn't know the truth, and I didn't think you did either.
So yeah, so in that scene, Linda, I thought she was just lying to him before, but I guess that was at the point where Linda didn't even know the truth at all. I thought she was just lying to cover for Lucifer.
You didn't care.
Sit down, Reese. Let's talk this through, please, Reese.
Dang, that's really gotta hurt. He's wasted all this time on this and it didn't matter at all.
Are you still working on this nightclub owner thing?
She's like, it's been a year. Are you serious? Uh-oh. He's finding the key to everything. Vulnerable, that's crazy. He just made the connection.
You'd be cleaning my blood out of the couch.
Lucifer gave him the answer right there when he said that. Lucifer probably shouldn't go saying that to people, huh?
I knew this day would come.
Like, what is that? Why does this guy have all this stuff covering his windows? This definitely reminds me of Jimmy's brother in Better Call Saul, which is funny too, since it's got the actor from Better Call Saul that played, you know, the partner at Hamlin and McGill. I still can't remember what his character's name was, and I love Better Call Saul.
Unless someone does something.
What's his name?
Howard. Was that his name on Better Call Saul? Howard?
Working on each case, it gives him an opportunity to right those wrongs, to fight back.
Oh, he just looks so happy about that.
No.
Did Lucifer just switch them out?
These look incomplete.
Man, look what you've done. You done killed somebody. An innocent person.
Yeah, you were right. Looks like the same
Ella!
person that was used by that serial killer you guys were after. It must be you.
It must be you. This is,
What do you mean?
He was here for you.
yeah, that's
He
what
must have figured out that you were going to pass over information about
Hi. This guy. This just all of a sudden turned into a slasher film.
I am responsible for a lot of things, Reese, but not your soul, not your actions, and not whoever killed that poor girl downstairs.
You have to be.
Stop trying to place the blame on him.
Otherwise,
You're still in love with your ex. What about your wife?
she is my wife.
Now Lucifer understands.
Hold on, that sleazy piece of garbage, that was me.
Well, if we're being honest, it wasn't all your fault.
Hold on.
I wasn't perfect either.
Yes, definitely good to take accountability.
Truth is,
But I'll feel weird if Linda all of a sudden, if they get back together.
neither one of us could be what the other one needed. That's why it's good that we're going our separate ways.
Yes.
Linda, no. Why can't you forgive me?
You know, for a second,
Yeah.
I thought that you were honestly taking responsibility.
Exactly. Like, it's like what he was doing there. I'm like, it's not genuine. It's not real. You're just doing it, just hoping that it'll somehow still end up giving you the outcome that you want.
I risked everything getting involved with a serial killer. A poor girl got killed.
Wait, what?
Man, you're just
I
admitting
can
this to
explain.
people?
Reese, what have you done? Reese,
Stop.
This guy's
Let me
crazy.
explain.
Reese, let go of me.
You shouldn't have told him you were calling the police. Man, what if he
Oh,
killed
God.
Linda?
I'm sorry. They can find me at my office. I'll give them everything that I have on Kapitsky.
Nah.
And I'll turn myself in.
Yeah, you better turn yourself in. Don't try to like, you know, I'll give you the information if you let me go.
You sent me to kill the wrong man. Lucifer wasn't
Whoa.
a fraud. He's an honest man, as honest as they come. No, no.
Whoa.
You! Reporter lying to people.
He said crap.
You didn't drink all of it.
I set things right.
So I wonder where he's going.
Maybe this will turn things around. With Linda.
Oh no, he's going to hell. We about- Wait, what? What?
Welcome back to the land of the living, Mr. Getty.
Second chance on life. Maybe it's not too late to turn things around.
Is he having a groundhog year? Oh, he's in hell. That's right. Wow, okay. Yeah, that was a really cool episode. That was a really cool episode. Like, I really like what they've been doing this season so far. I mean, I know they've totally been kind of straying from the usual course, and like we haven't really even been thinking much about the center man or whatever. Like, I'm trying not to say what not so much. I feel like I say that way too much. Anyway, but yeah, this was, I mean, like a really creative, fun episode, and I like what they did with this. Like I said, at first I totally got the feel of like it was like a Lucifer spec script, just like a really good one. And it still kind of has that feel. And I don't mean that in any type of like disrespectful or critical way. It just feels like, you know, it felt like it felt like a timeless episode, if you will, of Lucifer. Like it felt like the type of script you could pick up and be like, oh, I could place this anywhere in the show. I mean, I don't know how much it would fit in the future, but at least from what I've seen so far, like with a little tweaks, it could have fit anywhere. So it really felt like a timeless episode. And I thought that was kind of cool. In fact, if they had just taken out that part where they said 1 year later, they really, like this could have easily been released last season or in the first season. And it just all happened over the course of a shorter period of time. Like, so it was a really timeless episode in that sense. And I thought that was pretty cool. I just feel like I have so much to say about this episode. First of all, and I feel like this sounds almost crazy to say because I just said that the last episode was my favorite episode of the season so far. I think this might be my new favorite episode of the season, honestly. I think it's so cool that they basically had this entire thing be from the perspective of a guest character. Like, we saw this whole world through this outside guy's perspective. And I kind of caught on to that from the very beginning, just when we were seeing how Lucifer was acting and how he, you know, I mean, the things he was saying and doing, the way he was talking to people, it all came across a bit like a caricature of Lucifer and the Lucifer that we've gone on to know. But I think it was done in a way to where it makes sense. It didn't feel like they just all of a sudden forgot how to write for Lucifer and just started writing him in a stereotypical way. It felt like they wrote Lucifer the way that an outsider who doesn't know him might see him. So we kind of saw in this episode a bit of a different view of Lucifer. We didn't have as much of an intimate, you know, look into like his mind and, you know, everything that he was doing. So we kind of like sometimes he kind of felt a bit more like a jerk. He felt more annoying at times this episode, but it made perfect sense because we were seeing him through the eyes of Rhys Getty. And speaking of Rhys Getty, I have to give a big shout out there. I just looked it up real quick just because I wanted to see what his real name is so I can give him proper credit. But yeah, that was Patrick Fabian, like I mentioned, who is from Better Call Saul, another one. I say so many shows are one of my favorite shows, but I love Better Call Saul. That's one of my favorite shows. He was also on Veronica Mars, another one of my favorite shows. So shout out to him. He did a really good job of kind of carrying this episode in a way, which isn't an easy thing to do as an outside character, outside actor coming into on a very established show. To have a whole episode kind of be based around you from your perspective and for it to actually work is not an easy thing to accomplish. So a big shout out to him for pulling that off, and a big shout out to the writers for pulling this off and for making it feel so timeless without feeling cheap and without feeling like, it would have been very easy for this episode to just be a sidestep where you're like, why did they do this at this point? This just threw off all the momentum. But it didn't feel that way because it was such a well done episode. In fact, this is probably one of my favorite episodes of the show, I think. It was such a well done episode that, it doesn't matter where you put it. It just works. And I really like that about it. This episode was basically the embodiment of this whole idea of blaming the devil on things. That's been mentioned a little bit before on this show. Lucifer has talked before about how he doesn't like it when people blame stuff on him. And I think we might have had an episode or two before that kind of zeroed in on that a bit, if I remember correctly. I feel like I remember talking about this before. But this time, basically the perfect embodiment of the devil made me do it kind of person. And it worked on both a metaphorical sense and a literal sense. That's what's so cool about it. And that's when this show, Lucifer, is at its best. When it's able to take this whole, fantastical sort of goofy concept of the devil walking around on Earth and actually make it work on so many different levels. Like this guy, if Lucifer wasn't Lucifer, if he wasn't the devil, this entire thing still could have happened. This guy still could have came and seen, his wife, that's not even really his wife anymore, getting with some other guy, started making all these convoluted stories in his head, go on a big, mission to tear this man down and to blame everything that is going on this man, blame the person that he's killed on this man, blame the fact that he's ruined his life on this man, blame the fact that his wife doesn't want to be with him on this man. He's blaming it all on this other guy. And in this case, the guy just happens to be the devil. So it works on multiple levels, but it could have worked in a whole nother sense. And the thing is, when people do stuff like that in real life and they just blame things on other people, they'll say the devil made me do it. They'll say I had these feelings because the devil made me feel, greed or made me feel jealousy or anything like that. So I just loved how this perfectly showcased that. And then the ending with him being in hell, it almost makes you wonder, was he in hell this whole episode? And I think that would be another reason why it had kind of that different feel to it. There's a lot of things that made this episode have somewhat of a different feel from everything else. It could be argued that he was already in hell this entire time and was reliving all this stuff and has been reliving it over and over. And we just happened to kind of get a peek into this episode because look at the state he was in. That looked like a living hell. But if it wasn't hell already, he's definitely going to be living all that over again and again in hell. So that was cool. Other things I liked about this episode, I just mentioned kind of getting a peek into something. I also liked how, since we were from his perspective, we were just getting a peek into the daily lives of Lucifer and Chloe. They went through a case really quick. The case took up 5 minutes, if that, of the episode. It obviously was not even, relevant at all in this episode. But it was cool to see, just thinking about the fact that this really is common for them. They work on cases together. Even when we're not looking at them, when we're not watching an episode about them doing it, when Lucifer isn't managing to make the case relate to his everyday life in such a direct way, that's just what they do. And even in this episode, with the case being completely, not even relevant at all, there was still a way that it kind of tied in with Lucifer's life. They mentioned something, Dan mentioned something in past about a scar, recognizing that the scar is why he, was mad at other people. That totally relates to Lucifer and his devil face, and maybe how, nobody can accept him for him and who he really is. And he could probably relate to that guy in some type of way. And so he was able to use that to figure out the case. Like, it's like we're just getting this little peek into things and still seeing like everything that we would usually see on an episode, but we're seeing it from an outside point of view. And I feel like that's the kind of world building type of thing that really just makes everything feel more authentic. Because you just remember that these characters, it's not a situation where like they're only doing this when we open the door and the light is on. You can turn the light off and close the door. It's still going on whether you're looking at it or not. So I don't know if that metaphor just made sense, but it just made this world feel even more lived in. It made these characters feel even more real. To think that there's this stuff going on that we hadn't even seen. They had that whole case, and I guess that would have happened back in like season 1-ish, because that's when Lucifer was with Linda. But we didn't see that because it didn't necessarily need to be seen. And there's plenty of other cases like that, in theory. Obviously not really, but in theory. If I'm thinking about it, if I'm putting myself in the world of this universe. So that's just really cool to think about. And I'm just raving about this episode right now because I just feel like it was so good. And I feel like this is the type of thing also, like when you're into television writing and stuff, this is the type of episode that you want to look at. It's like as kind of an example of how to do certain things and how to pull certain things off. Like, I feel like this is one of those kind of like, episodes for writers in a way. Like, writers will especially appreciate it, So everything, this was just a fun episode. It captured the mood and tone of Lucifer, of being goofy, but then having serious themes to back it all up. This episode really just hit all the marks. It's raining outside, so I'm really sorry if that's picking up. But another really cool thing about this episode was them going back to talk more about how hell works. And, the fact that Lucifer said he doesn't choose who goes to hell. These people are really putting themselves in hell over deep down feeling the guilt that they feel inside about what they've done. And that's just really interesting to me because it's multiple ways to look at that. In some ways it feels positive. In some ways it feels like a negative outlook on the world and life. In some ways it makes you wonder like, so what about people that just truly feel no guilt at all? Even though they've done heinous, terrible things, they have no remorse. Do they go to hell? Or is it basically saying that every single human being, no matter how much they try to not feel it, and no matter how much it seems like they truly feel no remorse, deep down they know what they've done is wrong, so they're going to go to hell? Is that kind of the point that it's making there? I don't know. I think it's different ways to look at it. But Lucifer says that the door is always unlocked. Again, simultaneously optimistic and pessimistic at the same time. The door is literally open for these people to just go through, but nobody has ever done it before. And it's just showing that the entire human condition, we're doing this to ourselves in a way. It's basically kind of what it's saying in some sense. Like, you know what you're doing. Deep down, you know what you're doing is wrong, yet you're continuing to do it, and you're repressing the feelings that you're feeling. I don't know, but it's just saying deep down, basically everybody is feeling, they know what is right and wrong, and they know when they're not doing right. And it's kind of just depressing to imagine, like, that the door is open for you to be good. It's open for you to just, like, move past this. I know that's not the exact same thing with the whole hell situation, but it feels similar. And it's like, but some people are just so stuck in their ways and unable to get past it. And I just think that's really interesting thing to think about. It's a little bit different like than what I just said, because in hell it's more based on guilt than being bad, but still, like, they're so stuck with that guilt because they know that, like, it's like if somebody did walk out, if somebody murdered a bunch of people, felt guilty, was in hell, and then all of a sudden they just stop feeling guilty about it, that doesn't fix anything they did. All those people are still murdered. So I don't even know where I'm going with that. It's kind of crazy to think about. So it's like, is that why they'll never be able to get out? Because no matter what they've done? Or is it some chance of redemption there to where they'll stop feeling that guilt? But then does that mean that they don't care about what they did anymore? I don't know. It's so many layers to it. It's so much to think about. And I can't even get into it right now in this reaction because I feel like I would be talking for an hour trying to make sense of it myself. But it's just really interesting to think about. And I appreciate this show for throwing this stuff in there that'll just make me sit around and think and wonder because whether you believe in all this stuff or not, like, I mean, obviously the stuff that's portrayed in the show, like, I mean, is fictionalized, and whether you believe in religion or anything like that, all this is stuff that you can think about in some level, in some way or another. However you're applying it, it can work in some way. So I just think that that's really cool that the show does that. Also, I don't know how obvious it was supposed to be that they were doing a time jump back before they actually put up the thing that said 1 year later. But now I feel so dumb for not picking up on it all, considering how it was so many clues, like, you know, Dan talking about the stolen pudding, which was really something he was talking about, you know, I think in season 1. And then also him not liking Lucifer, even though at this point I think they've connected a lot more now. So there was so many things going on there that like told you that this was this was set in an older part of the show. I don't know how I didn't catch on to that until they said 1 year later. I just thought it was really weird. I just was wondering why everything was out of place, but it all made sense. So I'm sorry for ever doubting you all. I feel like I could just go on and on about this episode. I mean, there was the twist with Linda and everything. We saw Maze for a tiny little bit, but not really. So we still haven't seen much of her this season except for the episode that was her episode. There's a lot of other characters we didn't see this time around, but you know what? I'm just gonna stop it here because I could literally go on and talk about this episode forever, and I'd just be rambling. But I loved it. That's all you need to know. Go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more. Also, if you're interested in seeing the full uncut reactions, you can head over to Patreon, where they're posted weeks ahead of the YouTube schedule. I'm Anthony. I'll see you all later. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.